In the mid-1940s, the Nazi war machine has been ramping up its efforts to push back the Allied counter-offensive on the Western Front, and as a part of that, it had to quickly modernize its equipment in order to keep the edge it had over the Allies. Versatility and efficiency became a key factor when the new designs were being developed, and as such, many of the existing firearms were deemed obsolete. With a newfound need for a highly accurate, long-range rifle capable of delivering a substantial amount of damage while also being relatively compact and quick to operate, a Bombenschuss was born. While the exact year of the production and the date it had entered active service remain unspecified, we do know that it became a staple of the Nazi army by March of 1946. It appears as a usable weapon only in Wolfenstein the Youngblood and can be found for the first time during the second chapter of the game. It is also a primary weapon of the marksman soldiers, which start appearing in the same chapter and are a recurring enemy type for the rest of the game. They can be often easily spotted when attacking the player due to the scope glint which appears as they are about to fire the weapon. This of course is not the same for BJ, as utilizing the scope attachment on Bombenschuss will not break stealth and give away your position to nearby enemies. However, Bombenschuss does not come equipped with any accessories by default, and the only physical upgrade in the form of the aforementioned sniper scope can be found towards the end of the docks chapter in the Youngblood. It is located on the floor near the doorway leading out onto the catwalk, right before the player comes face to face with the marksman soldiers for the first time. Switching the fire mode on the weapon will allow to change between the iron sights and scope, which can come in very handy when transitioning between close and long range combat. Statistically, Bombenschuss is a bolt-action rifle with an exceptionally good accuracy both in aimed as well as hip fire. It holds 5 rounds in the magazine with up to 50 rounds in reserve. However, unlocking Bombenschuss Clip Plus perk by scoring 50 kills with it is going to raise the size of the mag from 5 to 10 rounds. The reload time takes 3.4 seconds for the long reload and 2.3 seconds for the short reload, which can be shortened to 2.8 seconds and 1.6 seconds respectively by utilizing the reload mash perk. The weapon deals second highest amount of damage per projectile in the entire game, being outclassed only by Kampfpistole. Because of that, it is very effective against all types of enemies, being capable of killing any unarmored opponent with a single body shot. Elite soldiers will take 2 body shots to succumb to its firepower, while the more armored enemies such as heavy soldiers will take 5 body shots to kill. Despite the varying levels of armor you may encounter in the common enemies, all of them will get killed with a single well-placed headshot from Bombenschuss, with an exception of heavy soldiers, which will require you to deliver 2 headshots in order to take them down. The most bullet-resistant enemies in form of super soldiers will take between 8 to 12 shots from it, depending on the part of the body they'll be hit at. As such, it is highly recommended to use Bombenschuss on those more heavily armored enemies, especially when playing on the higher difficulties, as the high damage output will allow the player to quickly dispatch of the upcoming threat. It is however important to be mindful of the ammunition, as the sniper ammo is not very common to come by, and with only 50 rounds in reserve, players can find themselves quickly running out of it. While Bombenschuss is a viable weapon to use at both short, medium and long ranges, it is generally advised to keep to medium and long distances while using it, and ensure you can land your shots consistently in order to preserve the valuable ammunition. Despite not making any more appearances as a usable weapon in the later games, Bombenschuss could be briefly seen used by Jess Blaskovich in the announcement trailer for Wolfenstein Youngblood, which may hint that despite being phased out of the military use, it remains being utilized in hunting and weapon practice by American citizens and possibly other free countries around the world. Another variant of Bombenschuss appears in the opening cinematic of the same game. This version of the weapon, while still retaining the frame of the original design, does appear to be feeding ammunition from the bottom, unlike the original design which was fed from the side. No details are known about this variant of the gun, and it never appears outside of the set cinematic, thus making it inaccessible to the player, but we can speculate that it was a possible second generation of Bombenschuss which was likely adopted after 1946 and got phased out by 1960. While Bombenschuss is obviously a fictional weapon, it is not difficult to notice the inspiration it took from the real-life World War II era weaponry. While the general frame of the weapon, including the side-fed magazine, relatively compact design and the inclusion of the optional scope are based on the idea of FG-42 rifle, the bolt-action mechanism and the way it operates is based on the iconic Kar 98. While the latter of these two was a standard-issue rifle used by the soldiers of Wehrmacht for the entire duration of World War II, FG-42 has entered service in 1943 as a response for call to upgrade the German paratroopers with a reliable yet lightweight and sturdy assault rifle capable of standing up to the Allied defense weapons, which at the time were often superior to the lesser carbine pistols that Fallschirmjäger were equipped with while landing on the enemy soil. It is unknown if Bombenschuss has taken place of either of these rifles within the lore of Wolfenstein, but it can be assumed that at a very least it took place of Kar 98 as the new and improved ranged infantry weapon. Despite that, the legacy of Bombenschuss carried on, as its design and versatility was undeniably an inspiration for the marksman rifle, which superseded it at some point during the 1950s, and became a new staple of the marksman forces of the Nazi regime. While the Bombenschuss itself appears in a very limited capacity within the franchise, it did leave a mark on it and remains to be one of the most unique designs to come from the alternate World War II era.